Yeah.
Nice. I had no additional comment. It's just cool. I think your process is cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. I like your process.
Thanks. Welcome to Viggy Talks, a conversation show about the creative things that inspire us each and every day. I'm already on episode 3 and I've completely broken the format. Today's guest is with me in person. He is an independent comic book writer from Long Island, New York. He is my very best friend in the whole entire world, and he is doing amazing things in the indie comic book industry. He is the creator of Rat Trap Comics, and he's currently working on a graphic novel miniseries called The Fourth Passenger. If you've met me in person, you've definitely met him. Please welcome Mr. Jake Napolitano. Hi, Jake.
Hello. How's everyone doing?
Thanks for being on my little interview show with our fake microphones.
No problem. I like the fake mic.
Me too.
Big fan.
I think you just do such cool stuff with your comic books. I'm so very proud of you and what you're doing, and I want you to tell people about it. So, what is the thing that got you into wanting to do comic books? I obviously know the answer, but you kind of grew up around comic books a lot, right? When in your younger days.
Yeah, comics were always a big part of my household, my family. My dad and my uncle both collect comic books. My uncle collects wild stuff, lots of like first appearances and like a lot of expensive comic books and stuff. He's self-employed, so, and in the US, you really don't get a retirement. So
Right, so the comic books are the retirement plan.
exactly.
Yeah.
But they're really cool to like, just like hold and stuff. There's a great picture of you holding my uncle's first appearance Thor.
Yeah.
I'll send to the producers to
Yeah.
put in.
Well, I'll tell the editor to put it in here.
I'll tell the editor to put it in. But yeah, and then what kickstarted me wanting to do my own comics was I started to get really into like independent comic books and like non-superhero stuff because I always loved comic books and the medium of comic books. And I read a lot of superhero stuff, but I can never really see myself making superhero comics until, well, I never wanted to make superhero comics. But once I started reading indie comics, I realized that there was a whole other world of stuff
Right.
you could access. And I was like, I could totally see myself doing something in that ballpark.
That's so cool. Yeah, once you kind of see that there's a whole other world to comics other than just the big superhero stories, there's so much depth and character in how people even interpret the medium on like an indie level. So
Yeah.
one of your favorite comic books is a book called Asterius Polyp by David Kelly.
Yes, it is.
And the way that book uses the medium in such a way to tell the story, not only just with panels and characters, but in the actual page layouts and stuff like that, is something that you don't usually see in like big two books like with Marvel and DC. So it's a really cool world that you've like got yourself into, and I love how you interpret. You use the comic book medium in its full capacity to tell your stories, which I think is so cool.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
So on the show, I like to ask people a lot, what are some other things they draw from creatively when they do their magic in whatever it may be. So I want to ask you, now I know you draw inspiration a lot from movies because we're very big film buffs, as you will see by the other back half of this video. So your newest book is a Western-themed comic book, and I know you draw a lot of inspiration from other movies and TV shows and stuff like that. So what were some of your main inspirations for this new comic that you're putting together? And where do you find that you normally draw a lot of your inspiration from? Like what other creative medium?
It's a good question. So for this one specifically, the Western, which I don't have a title for yet, title to be determined, I took a lot of, at first, so the project has changed a lot over the course. Like originally I wanted it to be a little more like steeped in genre, I guess you could say. Like I wanted it to be like a little pulpier, a little, I don't want to say a little more fun because it sounds like I'm dissing my own work.
Right.
Like a little goofier, a little more adventure-y. But then like I really fell in love with the characters, and the whole book turned into an exploration of their backstories. So the book basically follows two stagecoach robbers, which are, they're like outlaws. They rob stagecoaches and, rich people in the West. And they encounter a stagecoach in the middle of the night that is transporting a man, a pregnant woman, and then there's like a chain-smoking carriage driver, I guess you could call him.
Nice.
And it is basically about their interactions and what each of them has done to lead them up to this point. So it goes through their backstories and, really fleshes them out as people, which is something I'm really into. And I got that from, I watch a lot of like foreign films as well. So I got that from a a Swedish film from 1971 called Cries and Whispers, directed by Ingmar Bergman. Was a big inspiration for this one because it's about three sisters and it goes into their backstories and their relationships outside of the family. And I thought it was really interesting how he can make a story where he takes the backgrounds of characters and then blends them into a cohesive whole that describes the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
But to answer your other question, other mediums I take inspiration from, I've always considered, like, music's a big one for me. Like, I know, like, there's a music podcast, but you're really inspiring to me, having
Thanks.
you in my life and having you, both in my corner and watching you do your thing creatively is really inspiring for me. One of the reasons I thought I could go out and make comic books is because you went to film school and you were doing it. She would come home from film school and ask me to be in shorts and all these other things, and just being on set and stuff was really creatively fulfilling for me. But I don't want to make movies, so I wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
But sorry, back to music. I'm on tangents. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But I'm really inspired by like rap music too. Like as someone that loves words and storytelling, like I really, really admire the way like Kendrick Lamar could tell a story. Like some of his songs, like "Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst" and "How Much a Dollar Costs," and all these other songs are just ridiculously great examples of storytelling and narrative and whatnot. And I just love all that stuff.
Yeah. It's so cool to see how there are so many avenues for someone to tell a story. You could do it either through a song or through, a short film or through a comic, and just all these different mediums that, like you said, like it's this idea that you have a story to tell and then it's finding the correct medium to like convey it is always like cool.
100%.
So,
the medium is always the message.
Yeah, that's the quote. We'll have that across. The medium is always the message.
Yes.
So once you get your inspiration from whichever media you draw your inspiration from, how does the comic then come to fruition? Where do you start when it comes to writing stuff down? Do you kind of outline it first before you go into it? I know you have the most amazing skill of kind of outlining it on paper and then inputting it to Google Docs, and then that's kind of it, which I have never met someone who has a more streamlined drafting approach to comics. So tell me a little bit more about that. How are you able to get so much of the final product down on your first go?
So I always get the idea to do a page layout first or anything like that because, as I said before, the medium is always the message.
Right.
So if I think of like a really cool page layout or some way to arrange the panels in a way that either I haven't seen done before or a new way of doing that sort of panel layout, like that's what really inspires me to make a story or something like that. And the process from there goes from I outline the story and I try to get it more specific each time. So like I'll just do like a basic plot beat by beat, and then I'll go through my summary and be like, all right, this will take me like 3 pages to do, this will take me like 4 or 5 pages to do. And then it keeps getting more streamlined from there because then I'll be like, all right, so what am I going to talk about on this page? What am I going to talk about on this page?
Right.
And then it goes into like the rough scripting process, which I'm doing on paper. Like I'll draw the boxes on the page, like if I want it to be like six panels or whatnot. And then I will do that. And then I'll import it to Google Docs. And then it goes to the artist. And then it's out of my hands from there.
That's awesome. Do you think that you're able to kind of think of your ideas more if you physically write them out versus just typing them on the computer first? Like, does that have an actual part to your creative process? Because I know when I take notes or when I write something out, like when I'm jotting it out and I'm in like the jotted out stage, I like need to write it with my own hand because for some reason it feels like it's coming from my brain to my hand to the paper. Like it's more direct.
Ooh.
Whereas like if I'm just like, oh, I have an idea, click, 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 like it doesn't feel the same. So I need to kind of think of my rough draft like physically before I digitize it. So would you say you're the same way?
So I'm going to sound like an old man here. Anything I could do to not be on a screen really helps me focus.
That's fair.
Because if I'm going to be on the laptop writing it, that's the hardest part for me, is getting it from the page onto the laptop into Google Docs, because I'm always a click away from a distraction. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it just takes one intrusive thought of, oh, you know, I think Penguin just put out a new edition of this book. Let me go on Amazon and see when it comes out and how much it is, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
So, yeah, that's my issue with doing it directly on the laptop. And it's also the idea of making progress. So like in my brain, I know first stage is the paper, so when I get to the screen, it feels way more rewarding for me.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's cool. So, Jake, it's been so cool to hear you talk about your comic book process, and now I want everybody here to know where they can find you online. So, feel free to use this camera or this camera to let us know you could go in here and lean on it if you want, but let us know where we can find your work.
So I've got an Instagram, Jake Nap Comics. I have a Twitter, which is also Jake Nap Comics. And I also have a Gumroad account where you can purchase one of these. Hey, this is Sally and Sam. This is my last comic project. It is a crime noir story with a kind of like a Coen Brothers like comedy twist to it. Lots of fun characters and fun time, with art by Zurika Gaita.
This is a Platform Comics finalist. Jake entered the
2 years in a row. This only has the 2020 Laurel. Laurel? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, Laurel.
The 2020 Laurel. But I also was a finalist for this second story in here in 2021.
Yes. So this is a award-winning comic. You should absolutely pick this up. You can read all your comics for free, right, on your Gumroad website, but you could also purchase the physical copy of Sally and Sam.
Yes, and you could also read them for free on my Twitter.
Yes, you can. And I highly recommend you giving Jake a little love. His Gumroad comics are up there for $0+. So if you're watching this from my page, please go support your favorite fellow indie comic book creators and support their work. It's really good stuff, and I'm biased, but I love it so much, and it's deserving of all the praise.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Jake, for coming on here.
Thank you.
Well, our intermission segment is a little different today, since Jake does not play an instrument. We are not going to do an intermission or 5 faves. Instead, we are doing our top 10 favorite movies of 2022. So Jake and I are chronic moviegoers. We are proud AMC Stubs A-list members. This is not sponsored. And we go to the movies very, very often. And we religiously log and review our movies on an app called Letterboxd. So with that, we have compiled a list of our top 10 favorite movies of 2022. We're going to start with our honorable mentions here. We have 3 movies that did not make the top 10, but we still wanted to talk about. So my honorable mentions are Confess Fletch. John Hamm does his best Frank Drebin impression in this new reboot of the Chevy Chase classic Fletch, a sarcastically silly murder mystery about one man being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
This was such a fun, just goofy little movie. John Hamm just having fun, and not enough actors have fun in movies anymore, so that is my first honorable mention.
I agree. I haven't seen it, but I love John Hamm.
There you go. My second honorable mention is Prey, the next movie in the Predator franchise.
Yeah.
Released as a Hulu original, which I think is very sad because I would have loved to see this in a movie theater.
It probably would have done well in theaters too, because people liked it.
Ripped. Yeah. A franchise film done right. Set amongst a Native American tribe, the franchise's theme of man versus monster comes to light in the most literal of senses. Wonderfully edited and composed, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was pretty wicked. I thought it was a really cool take on Predator. Placing it back in prehistoric Native American climate. Thought it was cool.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I like Prey.
I like Prey too. My third honorable mention is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It retells the story of Pinocchio that we all know and love, the famous talking puppet, in a beautifully engrossing stop-motion masterpiece.
It's a gorgeous movie.
It was absolutely marvelous to watch. So many incredible voice actors were in this. And it was just kind of phenomenal. It's a flabbergasting movie because I don't even know what to say about it.
It is.
It made me cry, and you should watch it. Really, really good year for animation this year between this, Puss in Boots: Last Wish, and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Yeah.
All of these movies are really cementing this idea that animation is not just for children. It is a visual medium, just like live action films just like any other kind of film, and animation needs to be respected. So
I agree.
Pinocchio is my last honorable mention.
So my first one is Top Gun Maverick, directed by Joe Kosinski.
Excellent.
It's a just a super awesome, well acted traditional Hollywood blockbuster sequel to the Tony Scott classic. You've got Tom Cruise doing his thing, you've got Miles Teller doing his thing, and then a whole other cast of side characters that are a lot of fun. They really went in planes. They really
did.
In planes. They really flew planes.
If you've seen anything Tom Cruise has been up to lately, he's jumping out of planes, off of planes, in planes
cliffs.
while they're in the air, in cliffs. He is one of our last Hollywood blockbuster stars, and he absolutely does kill it in Top Gun. He shines.
Yeah. My next honorable mention is a combo between X and Pearl, which was a duology of films released last year. Both horror movies released in the same year. Pearl is a prequel to X. X came out first. It follows adult film actors in Pearl who are shooting a movie on a farm in the middle of Texas. And what do you know? There's a psycho killer on the loose. And then Pearl shows how that psycho killer became so psycho. And I thought it was a beautiful duology of movies. I didn't think they were scary, but they were really well made, and
more like
excellent.
atmospheric horror almost.
Yeah,
like
they
just
were atmospheric.
Just to watch, Pearl is such a character study about someone who is kind of like a background character in X. And just the low budget aspect of it alone. I mean, they shot these two movies back to back.
So I think it was like 1.5 for each. So it was like 3 or 4 million.
3, which
total.
Is really small scale.
Especially for 2 films.
Yeah, for 2. But it was, that is definitely one of my favorite. I consider them a duology, the 2 of them at once.
I think they're both equal in quality, and I think they complement each other so well. They're both like 90 minutes, so it's like they make like a 3-hour movie in total. I think X takes a lot from like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I watched before watching X.
Oh, that's cool.
Good enough. And it takes a lot from like French New Wave films and stuff like that with like really weird edits and stuff. And then Pearl takes a lot from like The Wizard of Oz and like that Technicolor like 50s era of Hollywood, which I liked a lot. My third honorable mention.
Cool.
Decision to Leave, directed by Park Chan-wook, which is a classic thriller told in a unique way. It's about this guy. He's investigating the death of this dude.
This guy.
This guy investigating the death of this dude, and he's got a weird wife. It's very like noirish, very like Hitchcockian, if you will. Very suspenseful. I like the noir stuff, and it's the most beautiful looking film of the year.
I agree. This was actually not jumping ahead to my top 10.
Oh, we can jump in. Let's jump into it.
You know what? We're gonna dive right in. Because number 10, I also have Decision to Leave. The cinematography was so strong that at times I forgot to read the subtitles.
It looks that good.
It looks so good. I would just be staring at the screen with my jaw dropped. And then I would be like, wait, what did he say? I'd have to like get myself back into it. Like, I haven't rewatched it since, but I definitely have to rewatch it just to like...
Yeah, because
just to rewatch it and re-experience
the movie distracts you from the movie.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like at times like that, I wish I spoke every language in the world, so I could just like watch the movie and take it all in at once. But...
Right. Beautifully shot. Some shots I don't even know how they pulled off.
No.
Really mind-boggling cinematography.
Those mirror shots and
they
stuff.
do a mirror shot where, sorry, gonna be filmy for a minute. They're shooting directly in a mirror, which already strike one. There's no, how do you do that with no camera in the mirror?
The camera in the mirror.
It's 2 people sitting at a table, so it's the 2 of them, and then they have their reflections. The camera somehow has the male investigator in focus and the reflection of the man's wife in focus in the mirror. And then they somehow switched the focus between them. I don't know how they did it. It is mind-boggling. So
gorgeous though, and not nominated for best.
Not nominated for best cinematography, so that's a crime. But please watch Decision to Leave.
My number 10, we've got The Banshees of Inisherin, directed by Martin McDonagh. A funny and grim story about the breakup of 2 friends when one of them, Colm, played by Brendan Gleeson, decides that he doesn't want to be friends with Podrick, played by Colin Farrell, anymore. We follow Podrick as he deals with this and attempts to understand why his friend abandoned him. We get a great cast of characters from the aforementioned Farrell and Gleason. We have Barry Keoghan and Kerry Condon also, who deliver incredible performances.
This movie has such a simple plot, but so many complex emotions. And it is one of the best movies I think I've ever seen.
Wow.
It's still the plot. I don't want to be another guy's friend.
Yeah.
But the way that Colin Farrell portrays this breakup of two friends.
Maybe you were never nice. Oh.
It's so heartbreaking and it's so good. And I am in my Colin Farrell era.
Yeah.
Like that is, it's been made. We're gonna find out. I'm in my Colin Farrell era, but he has just delivered such a stellar performance, and Brendan Gleeson as well. I mean, both of these actors starred together in another Martin McDonagh film, In Bruges, back in like 2007, I want to say.
Yeah.
And they're just as electric in that, and they actually they kind of switch roles. So in Bruges, we have Brendan Gleeson is the happy character, and Colin Farrell's a little more glum, and in this one, it is the opposite. And yeah, I mean, I know this was your number 10, and you have to be talking about it. But
no, it's okay. It's okay.
I think this movie is absolutely stellar. You watch the downfall of this friendship against this 1920s, I believe.
It's like
Irish landscape.
It's the Irish Civil War too. So it's like you have the idea of the Irish Civil War happening on the mainland because it takes place on an island off the coast of Ireland.
And they're having their own civil war between each other.
Exactly. And there's a lot of cute animals in the movie. You got Jenny the donkey.
Jenny the donkey!
Who's the goat. I love... Well, she's a horse.
She's the donkey. My number 9 is Triangle of Sadness, directed by Ruben Östlund.
Yeah.
This movie follows a bunch of people on a luxury yacht piloted by the very drunk, very communist Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
And we watch as all of these members aboard this luxury yacht become marooned on an island, and all of their roles kind of switch. And I thought it was very electric. Some of the most absurd shots I've ever seen put to picture.
Yeah.
Some of the most
It's a gross movie. It's a gross movie,
it's
but
gross,
it's funny.
But it is so hysterical in its absurdity.
Lots of puke.
Yeah. Before the boat gets marooned, they sure do have their fair share of food poisoning. So if you're not into the kind of gross out stuff, a little motion sickness.
Yeah. Triangle of Sadness is about the friends we made along the way.
It sure is.
So my number 9 is Babylon, directed by Damien Chazelle. Babylon is a drug-fueled frenzy of a film. Exploring a cast of characters in silent-era Hollywood, we experience the euphoric and chaotic rise of Margot Robbie's Nellie, Diego Calva's Manny, who ascends from assistant to producer, and the stardom of Brad Pitt's Jack Conrad. Each high has to fall eventually, however, as the film explores how the changing times of Hollywood are too fast for anyone to keep up.
I hated this movie.
I love Babylon. I thought it was by far the biggest swing any director took this year. I mean, Damien Chazelle is someone who... He did Whiplash and La La Land, which are two of the most critically acclaimed films of the 2010s. And I can't believe anyone gave him money to make this movie.
Good point. I don't know how it got financed.
It's ridiculous. It's grotesque, but it's also touching. It's maximalist. It's just such an uproar of like cinematic energy. And I was in so much pleasure watching this movie. I was enraptured by what I was seeing on the screen.
It's like a lot for me. I thought it was too much of everything going on. I also really like Boogie Nights, and once we started drawing some parallels between this movie and Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights, I was kind of like, this is kind of the same exact vibe.
Yeah, it is similar to Boogie Nights, but you know what Damien Chazelle likes? Jazz. And he's riffing on Boogie Nights. It's a jazz solo, baby.
I don't know. I'm glad you liked it. I'm really glad that you had a fun time in the movie theater, but I wanted the movie to end about 40 minutes in.
Yeah, you were done by the end of like the first party sequence. I remember.
Yeah, I was
she turned to me in the middle of the movie and went, "Do you like this?" Which I know is a bad sign. Whatever she asks me if I like something while we're watching, I'm like, that means she don't like it.
I don't like it. I'm up to number 8, and this movie, I think, is leagues better than Babylon could ever try to achieve to be. And it is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, directed by Joel Crawford.
Excellent.
Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is like the Logan of the Shrek franchise. This movie had no right. I saw it twice in theaters. Mm-hmm. I saw it twice. This movie, again, this idea I mentioned with Pinocchio, this idea that like animation is at a point where it's not being marketed towards children, and we can have these movies that have such adult themes and kind of messages in them, but also make them like for children.
Yeah.
So Puss in Boots tackles the idea that we only have one life to live and we gotta make the most of it. So Puss is on his last life. Cats have 9 lives. He's on his last one. And he has not cherished the past 8 that he has wasted doing very stupid, debaucherous things. And who is the main antagonist of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, you might ask? Death. Death himself is following Puss as he's on this quest to look for the wishing star in order for him to wish his 9 lives back. This movie harnesses the power of its medium, animation. It takes every single little thing that you could ever do with animation, and it does it. He's dancing. There's little, like, dance marks off his shoes off the floor, the little scuff marks. Every single sword clink was in time with the song. Every character moment, it was so well written. I'm talking about Puss in Boots and The Last Wish. I could not believe how much I enjoyed this movie. You and I saw it, and I went, there's no way I liked it that much.
Yeah, about 10 minutes in, we were just like both watching it with our jaws on the floor.
Yeah, it had no right being that good. I went and saw it again, and I did not cry the first time, but I did tear up the second time. I did.
Yeah.
It is just so beautiful. Its message, its style, the animation, just everything about it.
I like how it changes animation styles throughout. Like, it'll go from like this more like flat 2D style to like a more traditional like DreamWorks 3D style. I think it like blends them all very seamlessly. I really like all the character designs, like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. They have really cool designs. I forget John Mulaney's character, but he's
Big Jack Horner.
Big Jack Horner's the ugliest animated character I've seen. I hated looking at him.
He is so ugly, but it works because he is ugly.
But that's a testament to his design, though.
Yeah.
It's like he's supposed to be gross. I don't want to look at him.
Right. And I would also like to mention, back to this idea that animation is evolving. I've seen it both at 9 o'clock at night on the weekends, sold out people, like tax-paying adults went to see this. Well, and the whole theater was like adults.
It had a crazy box office run. It opened with, I think, 11 million. And then the next weekend, usually movies will drop. Like, 11 million's bad. That's not a good opening.
Yeah,
and usually movies will drop, like, 40 to 50%. Puss in Boots made 11 million the next weekend. Then it made 12 million the next weekend. And then 16 million the next weekend.
Yeah!
Like, it just kept... That, like, you cannot...
going. Puss and
That doesn't happen. There's always a drop-off.
It's me going back to see... I'm going again Friday. I'm going again on Friday. I might.
My number 8 is Avatar: The Way of Water.
All right,
directed by James Cameron. It's been 13 years since we've been on Pandora. Oh! She got the cup.
I got the cup.
But it's been 13 years since we've been on Pandora. And I cannot wait until next year where I can go back again. Avatar 2 capitalizes on the spectacle of the first film, giving us the luscious landscapes of the first film in the first leg of the movie, and then spending the rest of the movie in a new water-filled environment, filled with cool fishes, cool plants, cool blue people, cool stuff going on. And that's what Avatar is. Avatar is all about the vibe.
It's all about the cool stuff.
It's all about the family. Sullies stick together. And then in the last hour and a half of the movie, James Cameron just goes, oh yeah, I directed Terminator 2, the greatest action movie of all time. Let me give you another one of them. And then he does it. This movie's ridiculous. Avatar, just like, you're sitting there, you're watching the movie, and you're seeing these. You put it best. You see these people on screen with people that aren't blue and 10 feet tall, and you look at the 10-foot blue people, And you think,
yeah,
they're really there. He casted 10-foot tall blue people to play these guys.
You're watching
They look so real.
You're watching it and you think that those 10-foot tall blue people walked into casting like that.
I went, hey, I'd like to be an Avatar. Hey, they did let me get in Top Gun. Can I be an Avatar? And James Cameron goes, I got the perfect role for you.
Like, that's literally what it feels like. It is so seamlessly meshed, the CG with the real characters. Like,
it's the most immersive film I've ever seen.
Yeah, I
in
agree.
terms of just like, I saw it in theaters twice, similar to your Puss in Boots. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the screen, and the first time we saw it in like prime 3D, and like obviously that was like peak immersion because you're sitting there with 3D glasses on.
Yeah.
With
We had the chairs that shake.
The chairs wobbled, the super surround sound and whatnot. But then I saw it in like regular schmegular 2D digital projection, and it was just as immersive.
Right.
I was sitting there and I was like, I'm really here. I was laughing at all the dumb jokes. I never laugh at the dumb jokes.
You never laugh
at
the jokes.
I'm sitting there, I'm giggling the whole movie. I'm giggling when it's not even funny. I'm watching like the Sully boy, like, the Jake Sully's the main character. The Sully boy, like his son, like hanging on the space whale, just sitting there in the water, he's flowing, and I'm just laughing because I wish I was him. I wish I was on the space whale. That's my Avatar.
Number 7, I have After Yang.
I also have After Yang at 7.
Yay! After Yang! After Yang is a beautifully quiet film following a family of 3 in a futuristic world where families can purchase robotic companions for their children. Jake, the father, seeks to fix Yang after a malfunction, but what he finds is a fleeting life spent more so thinking about himself and less about his family.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. I have another one. Ready? While he tries to reconnect Yang, he also tries to reconnect with his wife and daughter.
Aww.
Interesting shot compositions and a wonderful cast. Colin Farrell's supremacy at its finest.
Yes. Yeah, I thought just the one thing from my little write-up that I wanted to bring in.
Yeah, sure, bring it in.
I think it's a touching meditation on memory. I think it's a beautiful film exploring memory and what it's like to be human and what it's like to have experiences. Because it's like, in the film, like, the robot, Yang dies in the beginning. It's after Yang.
It's after
the movie's
Yang.
after Yang.
After.
And so Yang, the robot, dies in the beginning, and Colin Farrell's character is going through his memories. And the things that stick out to him the most, it's all just all these tiny things that add up into a life. And that's what's so beautiful about the film. And I think that's what stuck with me the most.
Yeah.
That and I really like slice of life sci-fi, where it's like a sci-fi movie that's not, like, the world's not ending. They're not fighting aliens. They're not fighting robots. It's just like dudes living in like a sci-fi world, like a techie world.
Yeah.
And this is a really, really good example of that.
It's kind of like Ex Machina, right? Where it's this world that has the technology, but not in like a dystopian way. Like, they kind of are just living like symbiotically with it. And I think
Ex Machina is a little scarier than this.
Yeah,
one,
it's a little scarier.
It's a little scarier.
But I think this movie is. I love how you said that, a meditation on memory. That is exactly right. It's beautiful. It's very quiet. It's a nice, atmospheric, soft-spoken, sci-fi, lovely movie. Please watch it.
Yeah.
Please watch it.
Watch After Yang.
Watch After Yang. My number 6 was Tar. Tar tells the rise and fall of the world's most prolific classical composer and conductor, Lydia Tarr, in this harrowing character study. The decision to place this story within the realm of classical music using such specific vernacular known only to those in that field of study makes Tarr's pretentiousness literally ooze off the screen. She's haunted by her past, but her narcissism shoves it down while she's inevitably, #MeToo'd, finding herself at the rock bottom of classical composing. A film so great you'll be Googling, was Lydia Tarr real after it?
Yeah. Tar's an incredible film.
Yeah.
I've thought about Tar every single day since I saw it, and it's one of my favorites ever, I think. It's the way it presents information to the viewer is so unique in the way that there really is no driving force to the plot, and it's very much things are happening to Lydia, and you're not really given context, but the audience has to make their own context of the situations. And since it is a film about, a character getting Me Too'd, the viewer creating their own context for a situation like that, I think, is really profound, because it doesn't shove a message down your throat. The film doesn't tell you to view Lydia Tarr in a specific way,
Right.
even if she is making questionable decisions. There's definitely a type of person that will watch that movie and be like, wow, I can't believe all that happened to her. Like, she didn't deserve any of that.
Right.
And
then someone else could go into the movie and be like, she sucks.
Yeah.
It's a kind of movie that doesn't give you enough so that you can apply your own kind of interpretation of it.
Todd Field, the guy who directed it, started out as an actor, and he learned a lot on how to direct by being on the set of Eyes Wide Shut with Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, boy.
And I think this film is very Kubrick-inspired in the sense that the audience member really is an audience member. Like, you're watching these people. It's not like a Steven Spielberg movie where you're watching the movie and you are the character. You are watching these characters. Like, there's a distance between you and them on the screen, and I think that's achieved really well in Tar.
I like that. Yeah, it's cool to see. We were talking about immersion, right? With like Avatar, how you're like, I want to be on the whale. But like with Tar, it's like,
you do not want to be her.
You don't want to be Tar, bro. Like,
no, you
want to watch her go through it and then leave and go to the bathroom and go home. Like, you don't want to have to be in that world. So, yeah, that's a really cool distinction.
Having that added layer of separation between, like, what's going on in the movie and an audience member, I think adds to that whole celebrity of it, where you really don't know what celebrities are doing behind closed doors. And the fact that you could see what Tar's doing behind closed doors, I think adds to the message of the film and what I took away from it, at least. And that's that these celebrities create these personas for themselves, and that's not really who they are.
Right.
And they might be hiding some dark shit.
Some dark shit, yeah.
That's Tar. My number 6 is Barbarian.
Barbarian!
Directed by Zach Cregger.
Barbarian!
So, this is a film that I think... Honestly, I'm not going to talk about Barbarian.
Barbarian blows all expectations out of the water. A film best watched with no prior knowledge. All I will say is that this is a film where pictures move and there is sound in it. It's the best on the first watch and gets even better every other time. I don't even want to say anything else about it except watch it right now.
That's it. Watch Barbarian.
Watch Barbarian. Number 5. I have The Fabelmans.
Ooh, it's a good pick.
Talking about, great segue from Tar, where you were speaking about how Steven Spielberg loves to make you feel like you are the main character of whatever the story is he's telling versus putting that wall up. He took the wall down, baby. He said he is the main character. So The Fabelmans is a, I would call it autobiographical, or we'll call 100%. It semi-autobiographical film about Steven Spielberg growing up and how he sparked his love of filmmaking and how he kind of pursued it through his childhood years. And not only does it showcase that, but it also showcases the dynamic in his parents, portrayed beautifully by Paul Dano and Michelle Williams. And we kind of see this idea of like those who kind of weren't raised in an environment where the creative arts were kind of like encouraged.
Yeah, you got the artists versus the scientists.
Yeah, that's what it is. So his father is very analytical. He's kind of like a software guy.
Yeah, he's the science brain. He's a computer guy. There's computers in the garage and stuff.
And he's kind of like, movies, come on, science. And then his mother is like a goofball in a good way.
And she's a piano player.
A piano player, so he has that kind of creative side with her. So he's kind of trying to find his footing with his film while his parents are kind of pulling him either which way.
Yeah.
And it is an absolute love letter to cinema in general. I mean, we kind of mentioned before that I have a film school background, so I am actually a 2-time film school dropout. And once I finished The Fabelmans, I considered reapplying for a 3rd time, because that is how inspired I was after watching this movie. This film, an auteur's masterpiece of Steven Spielberg. It is just beyond... If you never really had an interest in movies or like pursuing it, I do think you would watch this and walk away going, I get it. I get it.
You're like Danny DeVito and Sonny, right?
Yeah, I get it now. Like, really, really a beautiful movie. An absolute love letter of both Steven Spielberg and his craft, and you just see he is just the absolute master. He is one of the greats.
He's the GOAT.
He is the GOAT.
I think The Fabelmans, it's like the movie that makes all of Steven Spielberg's movies make sense. Where,
I agree.
You know, you have this science brain aspect to him, where it's like, that's where you get Steven Spielberg as the innovator.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get Jurassic Park, where you have him doing these big animatronics and whatnot. You have E.T., you have all this fancy camera work that he's, you know, revolutionized and
Stuff
whatnot.
like in Jaws.
Exactly. And that's the science brain of it. That's his dad coming in. And then you also have the artist brain coming in, which he gets from his mother. And that's where you get his artsier films like this one. Because this movie really is like a love letter to his mom as well. I think his mom is like the centerpiece of the film. Mm-hmm. But that's where you get movies like Schindler's List, all his other like more like artistically fulfilling pictures. Yeah. But yeah, that's The Fabelmans. I think it's a beautiful film.
Absolutely beautiful film. One of my favorite last shots, I think, in a movie.
Oh, it just makes you smile.
It just makes you smile so much.
You smile.
So yeah, number 5 for me is The Fabelmans.
Number 5 for me is, oh, it's gone, but I know what it is. It's Nope.
Nope.
Directed by Jordan Peele.
Excellent choice.
For his third feature film, horror auteur, Jordan Peele goes bigger and more mysterious than ever before. Siblings OJ and Emerald are horse trainers in Hollywood, and when a mysterious flying object shows up on their ranch, they do everything in their power to capture a picture of it, to get in on the spectacle and the, you know, like the scoop of like aliens in the world. And there's a lot more to it, because I think it's a very complicated film. You know, there's a whole subplot with Stephen Ewan and a monkey, and the idea of taming an animal, and nature versus nurture, and spectacle, and exploitation within the Hollywood system. It's a really expansive film, and I think it tackles a lot, and I think it succeeds.
I think it succeeds.
I didn't really... Walking out of the theater, I liked it a lot, but, you know, I don't know if everything necessarily clicked with me, but then it's a movie that really stayed in my head weeks after seeing it. I thought about it a lot, and, you know, it was a really popular film, too, so, like, a lot of people were putting their takes out, and some people's takes were, like, unlocking keys to my own takes for it, and I think it's a really, deep film, and I think it's a film that encourages a lot of discussion, which I like a lot.
Peele's biggest influence on this movie, I would say, is Spielberg, and
Jaws
even
especially.
probably James Cameron, in a way, this idea of the Hollywood spectacle, especially during the summertime, because that was a whole big thing with, you know, with films when they used to come out, I guess, in like the 60s and 70s, was like, always have that summer blockbuster, like everyone's home from school.
Jaws was the first one.
Yeah. Jaws kind of, it did invent the summer blockbuster, so it's cool that Nope did the same exact thing. I think it came out on June 18th or July 18th or something.
Yeah, around there.
But right in the heart of the summer, so that was, great pick. My number 4 is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
So was mine.
Yay! Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Marcel the Shell with Shoes On reconnects you with the human condition.
Wow.
What it means to be alive, the beauty of the mundane, and the worth of living a simple yet beautiful life.
Shit.
Short and sweet, just like Marcel, this 90-minute film utilizes every second of its screen time, making you laugh, cry, and smile. Yeah. Please watch this.
That's it. That's pretty much everything I had to say. Just want to show you my notes for Marcel the Shell. I hope it's in frame. If not,
I'll put it on the screen.
You can cut it, but it just says so cute. That's all I wrote.
So cute.
It's a beautiful film that touches the core of what it means to have a connection with somebody or a place.
It's so, it's just everything. I mean,
it's a beautiful movie.
It's everything. My number 3 is Barbarian. So we already talked about Barbarian, so I'll just...
We don't have...
Just again, go see it. Don't look anything up about it.
And if you have seen it... Ba-ba.
Ba-ba. What's your number 3?
Fabelmans.
Fabelmans!
Which we already talked about.
So
let's go to number 2.
So let's go to number 2.
The same number 2.
All right, you want to say it at the same time on 3?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is one of the most all-encompassing films ever made. We follow a family as they attempt to file their taxes while also trying to save the multiverse from an impending existential threat. Complete annihilation. The film throws a million different ideas and concepts at the wall.
And they all stick.
And they all stick, and they all work, and the whole film somehow feels cohesive, and I think that's in part due to the Daniels' wonderful direction.
I agree.
And the stellar performances by the main family, which are done by Michelle Yeoh, Kihei Kwan,
and Stephanie Sue.
I think a lot of the magic of the film comes from the Daniels' time working on music videos, which they did. They're most famous for doing the Turn Down for What music video. That if you've seen that video's insane. Yeah. The Daniels doing music videos and all these zany things, they obviously had a ton of ideas that they never used. So they went into Everything Everywhere All at Once and went, let's just do like everything and like write a script around it.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And it worked. This movie, like, it's a miracle that this movie works, because it shouldn't.
It really
Everything
shouldn't.
about this movie is like a no. Like, you don't do that.
Yeah.
There's so many things. Like, nothing happens in the movie, but everything happens in the movie.
I think this movie was incredible. Like you said, it's really magic that this even was pulled off, and I think that it is the power of the Daniels that made this come to life. I don't think anyone else could have done it. I don't think anyone else could have thought of it. And I think it was perfectly cast. I think everyone in it absolutely shines.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it any other way. My review, by the way, in case anyone was wondering what my thing says, it just says bagel.
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 So we are finally at the number 1 spot in our lists. Both of these movies we did already mention, though.
Yeah.
So what is your number 1?
My number 1 is Tar.
Tar is absolutely excellent. My number 1 is The Banshees of Inisherin.
It's the Irish violin.
Irish fiddle.
Irish fiddle.
Irish fiddle. What is one thing that sets Tar apart from all the other movies you've seen this year?
Tar has this funny little thing where they put ghosts in the background in some of the shots.
They do, it's
and
so
you'll just
freaky.
be watching and you'll be like, there's a guy back there.
Yeah.
And it really catches you off guard and rustles my nillies.
Yeah, it's a big nilly
Big
rustler.
nilly rustler.
A nilly rustler.
So what sets Banshees apart from the rest of the flock?
For me, it's really the characters in the film. And I'm not talking about the human characters, I'm talking about Jenny the donkey.
Jenny the donkey.
Jenny the donkey is the absolute light of my life. I love her. I love Podrick's relationship with her in the film. And I think it's actually a sham that Jenny was not up for Best Actress.
I agree.
I think they should add Jenny in the Oscars.
100%.
But yeah, so that's my number 1, and I think you have a great number 1.
Yes.
And you're my number 1. So thank you.
You're my number 1.
Thank you for being on the show.
No problem.
And thank you all for watching Viggy Talks. Be sure to tune in again next month to see who I talk to next. Bye-bye.
Bye.